Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Kay Cote, and I am your podcast host here at Action Coach in Central Texas. And today we are going to be having a discussion with our business owner, Ben Blundell, CEO of Candidate Path. Hear from our conversation for what it's really like to build and operate a business. If this is your first time on our channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get notifications when we drop new conversations like this one. Ben, welcome and thank you so much for being here on the show today. Please give us a brief overview of who you are and tell us a bit about your business.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So I started Candidate Path about a year ago, and I bootstrapped this business. Essentially, I started a staffing firm, but I tried to do it in a non-traditional way. Really, what I tried to do was fill a gap in the market where independent recruiters can have a flexibility and a quality of life that isn't offered with contract recruiting or traditional staffing firms. So essentially what Candidate Path does is they work with independent recruiters, or we work with independent recruiters when we have assignments from our clients, and we dedicate a recruiter to our clients. Whereas traditional staffing firms would have a staff of recruiters, and that staff would divvy out the jobs. A lot of times they have requirement meetings in the morning, and they all come in. When I was working agency, it was suit and tie, and you get a new position to work on almost every day. Here, we are going to take a very experienced recruiter with corporate experience and agency experience, or a ton of one, and we are going to assign them to a client to work specifically on their needs. And we have a rule that a recruiter can't work on more than 5 requirements at a time, and a recruiter can't work on more than 2 disciplines at a time. So it really dedicates these recruiters to your business so that you are getting a more detailed search, I'd say.
Mm. That is really unique. I like that kind of that business model, especially how you're kind of creating this customized experience and more attention to that detail. Like, you're having those certain people on certain tasks. And that I think that's really, really cool. And I haven't heard of that before either.
Yeah, it's unique in the industry. And
Mhm.
the way I was able to do it is we partner with a group out of Australia, actually, called X-Recruiter. X-Recruiter won Startup of the Year in Australia last year. And what they do is they supply all of our back-end resources. So we have a applicant tracking system, we have a CRM, we have access to LinkedIn Recruiter. So as we bring on more clients, I can turn on and off my resources.
Mhm.
So I have another client, I need to bring on another independent recruiter. That recruiter gets to utilize our resources. And those resources are extremely expensive if you are starting a staffing firm on your own.
Mhm.
But having X-Recruiter like as our back-end resource, and partnering with them, I have the capability of scaling up or scaling down really, really quickly.
Oh, that gives you so much more control too, because then you're not stuck with like a huge amount of overhead or things you don't need. You can kind of like ebb and flow as you're shifting in the business.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, that's really cool. So like, as you as the founder, what does your role look like? And are you the current owner, founder, and or are there outside investors? Can you share a bit about that structure?
Yeah, absolutely. Starting a business is really difficult, right? And I am the sole proprietor for this business. All the other folks that work with Candidate Path are independent resources, 1099s. And I recruit, I do the work.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that a lot of folks that start new businesses don't realize is the amount of sales that you need to do. So a lot of my days are spent building relationships, networking, connecting with folks that could potentially benefit from our services. And it's there's good days and there's bad days, and it ebbs and it flows. And some days you think you've got something going great and it goes poorly. And some days you think you've got nothing and you get a phone call out of the blue and it goes great. Um, I think starting a business isn't for everybody for that reason. It is very volatile. The market conditions for me were extremely poor for new business, for getting clients. I have a fantastic network of recruiters that want to work with Candidate Path because the recruiting industry has been hit really, really hard. A lot of corporate recruiters have been laid off recently. And what I'm hoping for is to give those folks an outlet to earn some money, keep their skills fresh, build some relationships. But getting business has been what I focused on the most, and the biggest struggle, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of companies aren't hiring right now. It's uncertain economic times.
Very true. You touched on something, sales, and that leads me into like the talk on marketing, huge benefit to your business and keeping it, through this time that we're in too, especially like keeping it strong and give, like you said, giving those jobs to people. So what are ways that you're working with marketing that are successful to you?
That's a really good question, and probably my the area that I need improvement the most. Um, Specifically because I'm bootstrapping and I'm not putting a ton of money back into marketing, which I probably should be. I'm utilizing social channels, and a lot of it I relied on networking in the beginning, which was really, really successful for me. My background is in corporate recruiting, so I've made a lot of connections over the last 15 years or so. Um, but I what I've seen success with, and I need to do more of, which I haven't done more of, is just being consistent with your social channels, right? Just putting content out there, making sure that you have enough impressions on a daily or weekly basis. It doesn't matter what the content is, because
Mhm.
when folks see you and they consistently see you, it creates that curiosity. Even the folks in your network, right? The folks that are like, wait, hold on, like what is Ben doing now?
Mhm.
And I haven't been visible enough, I don't think. I'm not much of a content guy, to be honest. But I could do a better job of that.
Oh, well, you touched on some really valid points there, and very, very true. With consistency over content, it is that consistency, like your people know and rely on that content as you're posting and going through your day. So, what does that typically look like for you? What platforms are you utilizing, like LinkedIn, or what's your favorite source of
Yeah,
content?
right now, from a recruiting perspective, LinkedIn is king.
Mm-hmm.
So that is it's a fortunate situation for me because I'm in staffing and recruiting. And so I have a network that's essentially dedicated, or a social platform that's dedicated to the work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
Could I go to Instagram or TikTok? Probably, probably. I think that more businesses are, and more service-oriented businesses are. Um, but I might have missed that by a couple of years. It's hard for me to get over that hump with
Mm-hmm.
posting content. So,
Yeah, I think that's the challenge, isn't it, for all of us, like for business owners, is like it's like how do we tap into that next platform and how do we create content that's gonna find our audience there? But I think with time it can be done, and yeah, totally.
hmm absolutely.
And you mentioned a little bit ago about a CRM that you use, for organizing the people that you're working with. What's your CRM of choice, and how do you find that to benefit your business?
Yeah, I fell into it. I really, really like it though. I don't have much of a choice on it because of my partnership with XRecruiter on the back end.
Hmm.
But we use Loxo.
Okay.
So Loxo is a recruiting focused CRM. It has been customized quite a bit for us through XRecruiter. They have an exclusive relationship with them. So I have a bit of a different version of Loxo than you can get out of the box.
Okay.
But it does both my ATS, my CRM. It has good metrics tracking. It has good automation tools within it. It has a little bit of an AI aspect to it, which I think they will continue to grow. But it's a pretty good system.
Nice. Yeah,
Does what
that's
I
really
need it to
cool.
do, especially at this point.
That's the what we can ask for, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, well, thank you for sharing about that. And I kind of want to deep dive into you a little bit. As a business
sure.
owner, why did you choose to go into business for yourself as opposed to working for somebody else? What was that transition like for you?
It's a good question. I am seasoned in corporate recruiting. Over 15 years of leadership with companies like Google and Amazon, and most recently at Oracle. But I've always wanted to try to start something on my own. I've always had that itch.
Mhm.
Um, and I had an opportunity with kind of the downturn in the macroeconomic climate through the end years of COVID. My role at Oracle was eliminated after a number of layoffs that happened to my team. And so I was kind of forced into, do I throw my hand into this crazy market for tech recruiters and tech recruiting leaders being displaced and trying to compete with everyone? There's some fantastic talent out there. And I decided I wanted to try to do my own thing so that I could be more selective in my job search.
Mhm.
Was one of the reasons why I wanted to do that.
Mhm.
Um, and ultimately, it ended up being successful enough that I don't necessarily have to go back into corporate, which is
Mhm.
great. Yeah, my hand was forced, but I also chose.
I really like that. And I like that, you're sharing that honesty too, because it's sometimes how it finds you. It's like sometimes you're like, whoa, this is happening. I can do something with this. That's really
Yeah.
cool. Looking back at your journey so far in business, what has been a memorable like roadblock or hurdle, something that you were challenged with that you were forced to overcome?
Um, there's so many challenges in starting a business.
Hmm.
I think that what I struggled with was when to stop,
Mm,
right? Like there are folks that start a business and they throw themselves into the business. And sometimes that's very good. And sometimes you can put it in on the front end and it will lead to less work on the back end.
hmm.
Um, but when I first started, I was just diving into this and I wasn't allowing myself to um, kind of stop and smell the roses, right?
Mm, mhm,
And I was getting to that point of burnout.
mhm,
And so what I it was a struggle for me to understand how to balance when I didn't have a corporate structure to balance
mhm.
it. And I figured it out, but that was a struggle.
Yeah, that's something that I've myself included and have heard from others too that where's that point at and it looks different for everyone. So it's like we kind of get there and we're like, okay, I need to like curtail it back or push harder. And it's just like a kind of an ongoing process, it feels like sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Oh,
then my wife loves to schedule vacations. And
yeah.
so we're like in Costa Rica and I'm trying to enjoy Costa Rica, and I'm like, but I gotta make cold calls. Um, so I have to balance it a little bit better.
Yeah. What's your secret to work and travel?
Uh, early mornings. Early
Hmm.
mornings. I've got twin daughters, and if I can be up before my wife and before my twin daughters, and I can be online and I can get things done, then I can feel comfortable spending the rest of the day enjoying my family and enjoying the sights and enjoying the travel.
Hmm.
So, you know, I burn it on both ends.
Oh, I like that too, because then it's like at least you have it early in the morning, like you get it out of the way, you feel comfortable then enjoying the time, and you're not always like
Exactly.
ruminating on the work stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, kind of like looking at the future ahead, where do you see your business going in the next 3 to 5 years?
You know, I want to keep I'm not in business to scale 10x.
Hmm.
That's not what I'm trying to do. Um, I am in business to um, build a service that can help growing companies and help independent recruiters. And, if I can do more of that, that's fantastic. I don't want to get too big for my britches where I'm back to the point where it's exhausting,
Hmm.
right? I want it to
Hmm.
support my family, and I want it to help the customers that I have, and I want it to help the independent recruiters that I work with. And if I can confidently say that I'm doing all of those things, um, then this business can continue to grow. But I'm not interested in like anything too far beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of looking at that too with goals and goals you're setting for your business. What's your approach to goal setting now that you've kind of went through this learning that boundaries and that flow? What's your process to goal setting and achieving goals?
I think my goal setting is a little non-traditional. Um, because I come from the approach of wanting to help people, I'm almost taking this for-profit business and putting nonprofit like purpose to it,
Mhm.
right? So my goals, quite honestly, are, am I doing the right thing for my clients? Am I doing the right thing for the independent recruiters that work with me? And am I like, are the results consistent with the reputation that I'm building?
Mm.
That's the goal. As far as like revenue goals and new clients and things like that, if
Mhm.
you're doing the other things right, those will come.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I'm not really setting those right now.
I like that. It's like flow. You're in kind of a like more flow state. You're like caring about the clients, and the rest kind of comes into place as things are developing
Mhm.
as you go along the journey.
Yeah, and because of that, you know, we don't sometimes we don't take clients, right?
Mhm.
If we don't feel like we can serve them appropriately, then we're not going to take them. And it allows me to be a little more we're kind of more of a high-end service.
Mhm.
So even in a market where there are tons of staffing firms that are trying to undercut me, um, I keep my fees at a little bit of a higher level,
Mhm.
because I know that the service they're going to get is at the level that is appropriate for what those fees are.
Mm. Yeah, that's really cool too. And that kind of leads me into this next question. What areas of training do you think, like the people you work with or your clients, or what areas of services do your clients need in the next 6 months based on kind of that current business climate and where your business is heading?
Very interesting and astute question. So, um, traditionally, what we offer is recruiting services,
Hmm.
right? You have a position that you need to hire for, and you need a little extra help with that, with hiring for that position or those positions. But because of my corporate background, I do offer consulting services. So more for organizations that feel like they could be more effective with their hiring process. That's
Hmm.
what my background is. So as we grow a little bit more and I step out of some of the individual contributing with the recruiting, I do offer consulting services, sometimes depending on the relationship that we have for the requirements that we're hiring for. I offer that for free, and sometimes I charge a fee for it, depending on how many requirements we have exclusive relationships on with. But I'm able to utilize my background leading, large teams at Oracle and Amazon and Google to help usually smaller, medium-sized companies understand how to scale a talent acquisition function.
That's very cool. We've covered some awesome ground, and like there's been so many nuggets. So everyone listening, I highly encourage, save this and come back a few times to hear it for an additional watch, because there's just been so many great nuggets of wisdom. So as we're beginning to wrap up, I have a few rapid fire questions, just kind of those quick top of mind questions for you. Are you
Sounds
ready to
good.
rock?
Let's do it.
All righty. So what is the key to success for you?
Oh, my kids. Just passion, having something behind what you're doing.
I love that. What is your one piece of advice for other business owners?
Stick with it.
Mm,
Don't get discouraged. Don't get down. And every single day is a new day. Feel confident with what you did in that day and start over the next day.
hmm
And if you don't feel confident in what you did in that day, you have the next day to do it again. It's not
Yes,
hard. Just keep going.
keep going. That is great advice. Um, what is one piece of content, book, podcast, something that you've read recently or are reading now that's impacted you?
Ah, I like Malcolm Gladwell. And I just completed his David and Goliath book. Really, really cool. Really super
Mm.
cool. It's funny. I was able to tell the full story of David and Goliath to my kids, but there's so many different examples within that book of how to stand out, how to do things differently
Mm-hmm.
to gain an advantage, how to spot weaknesses in your competitors and utilize your advantages. Really, really, really cool book. All of Malcolm Gladwell's books are really cool. I highly recommend them.
Nice. I'll definitely add that one to my list. If you had to choose only one area of business you could immediately improve on tomorrow, what would it be?
Of my business,
Mm-hmm.
sales. I'm terrible at sales. I don't like to
It's
do it.
all
It's
of
soul
us.
sucking work, and people that do it are fantastic. I just want business to come to me because I feel like I'm doing it the right way.
Yeah.
But I if I could hire a salesperson, I'm bootstrapped right now. If I could hire a salesperson, it's the first thing I would do.
I love it. Well, those were great rapid fires. Thank you so much. But before we get to the final question of the day, how can others find you, get in contact with your company, and connect with you online?
Yeah, candidatepath.com. Everything's there. That's all you
Awesome.
need. You can find it on LinkedIn. You can find my LinkedIn and contact me directly, but everything's at candidatepath.com.
Wonderful. Now we're here for our final question. What is most inspiring to you today?
Oh, I gotta go back to my kids. I twin daughters, 6 years old, watching them grow up and watching them flourish and learn new things. They're just sponges. It's so inspiring to see how people can learn, and it inspires
Mm.
me to want to continue to learn as well.
That is powerful. And it's, you think about kids and they're so free in how they think. And we adults can learn so much from that free spirit of a child, that's for sure.
I agree 100%.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ben. This has been a super fun interview. And there's, like I said, so many great nuggets. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks, Kay. I appreciate y'all.